Bonjour from Paris. My name is Kimberly Wilson. I'm the host of the Tranquility du Jour blog and podcast. And before I head back to the States, I wanted to give you a peek inside the Airbnb I found, which is in the 10th. It's a little north of Les Marais. And also just to talk through kind of what goes into planning a kind of 5-day jaunt to head over to Paris solo. So, first of all, you always pack your tea. So I've got my green tea with mint, which is my latest obsession. Okay, latest as in past year or two. But the tricky thing is I had so much while I was here that my hands were actually shaking. And I realized it yesterday while I was at W.H. Smith, which is an English bookstore, and I was drinking an iced rose garden tea, which is a black tea with roses. And I was like, okay, maybe I should cut back on the caffeine. So what I did to start is first tracked on Google Flights to find a really good deal. So believe it or not, last November I came here for $400. And then in May, I just kept tracking, looking to see was there anything that was kind of popping up that felt like a good deal. And so I found a $600 ticket for Labor Day weekend. So I thought, well, that's just perfect. That's a really good deal. Typically whenever I'll come over in the summer to lead a retreat or whatnot, it's usually a good $1,400. And so I thought $600 sounded great. So the next kind of planning stage that I do is search high and low for the perfect Airbnb. So as you can see, what I loved about this one was the gold mirror that was focused. You can see kind of behind is this big bookcase just filled with books. Love books, even though they're in French. I can't read them. I just like being surrounded by them. And then I like this plush kind of cushy couch. And, it's just little touches like this that make it or break it. There's 3 windows that are looking out on Boulevard de Magenta. I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but, so it's actually a bit noisy, but it's very sunny. And I'm on the top floor, the 6th floor, guys, 6th floor. And yes, I did typically walk it. There were 2 times I took the elevator. One, when I first arrived because I had my suitcase, and then the second time when I was just exhausted. And after walking, what turned out to be about 8 miles every day. So I think that finding the right place within your budget is absolutely critical. Okay, so once you have those 2 things, ticket, Airbnb, plus your passport is up to date, you're ready to go. And so I did pack, of course, and I did a Tea with Kimberly video about that just recently, and showed what was in my carry-on. And in the past, I've shown what goes into my luggage. Very simple. The only thing I overpacked that I really didn't need and brought was a trench coat. So chilly mornings here, 50s, 60s. This morning is just 70, but I thought, I'm going to be cold. But instead I had packed my duster wrap and I packed my new Tranquility sweatshirt. So both of those were great layers whenever it was chillier than I would like outside. And so that was the one thing I packed that I really did not need. Otherwise, I had 2 2-in-1 fitted tops. I had a boyfriend tee or tank. I had this boyfriend tank. I had this leopard print skirt. I had a pink fluffy skirt. I wore over the sleeveless swing tunic with perfect pants and the duster wrap. And then I packed a pair of jeans. I wore those for like a few hours and then ended up picking up this like accordion satin skirt for 30 euros that I just thought was adorable. That's the only thing I bought here. And jeans, I don't know, they're just not comfortable for me, even with stretch. I just don't love them. And then I packed a couple leggings and I packed the crop pant. Basically, that was it. And I had all these different outfits that I could mix and match. And of course, I brought the trench, which I didn't need. And as I mentioned, the sweatshirt has been great because at night it gets quite chilly and in the morning quite chilly. So I'm all set with just layers. And then shoes, I packed 1 pair too many. So I packed my tinnies. And these I've been wearing constantly, which is really great when you are walking so many miles. And then I also packed little leopard print boots, which I wore a lot also. And then I packed a pair of sandals thinking like, because the first couple days I got here was going to be in the like high 80s, mid to high 80s to low 90s. And I thought, oh, I'm going to want sandals. No, I didn't need the sandals. But again, those didn't take up much space, so not a big deal. So that was kind of the prep work, right, for getting here. And then what's funny is a lot of people were like, what are you going to do there? Need more tea. What are you going to do there? And I was like, oh, you know what? I really have no plans. I was going to meet up with a few people, which was super easy. And of course, that took up a certain amount of time. So I knew that was going to be happening. And then I just kind of built a trip around it. So whenever I arrived on Friday, I immediately went to Wild in the Moon, which is a vegan, a plant-based spot that even like their straws say #not plastic. I mean, everything is just so beautifully done. So I went there first thing for La Vie en Rose, which is this pink drink that has beets and chia seeds and almond milk, and it's to die for. Love it. So immediately went there, then met up with a couple of friends, which was lovely. We had Thai food. And then checked into my Airbnb, dropped my luggage, which is always a treat to let go of that. And then we kind of wandered. We went to a cafe, and then we went over to the canal, which I had never gone to before. And that was a really kind of cool experience. Lots of fun things there. So we just kind of wandered. Again, we didn't really have a plan. And then Tim's cousin came into town Friday evening through Sunday evening. And so that kind of took the whole weekend, which was so much fun. So as soon as she arrived, we go through the list, we talk about, okay, what do we want to see and do? She wanted to go to this haunted house, which I have a link over in the blog about it. It was super cool, I have to say. I haven't been to a haunted house in a long time, so it was really fun. And it was in this kind of huge, beautiful, old, ornate building. And it was all about like different Paris history kind of haunts, right? So very cool, very scary, and it was just the two of us on the English tour, so it was like a little bit more intense. And of course, everyone else was French, and so they got the French tour, and they got to be together in a group. So that was fun. That was something we set up for Saturday. We also, Friday night, we're going through Airbnb experiences, and we set up a 3-hour sketching class in Montmartre. And I will put a link to that in the Airbnb experiences because this guy was amazing. He's an art teacher here in Paris, and he was just the sweetest guy, super encouraging, especially to me, considering, let me just give you a peek inside what my sketches look like. Voila. Okay, this is not what I did on tour. He actually gave us our own journal and whatnot to show during the class. But I did do my practicing, and I'm going to keep doing it because clearly that's the only way one gets better, right? So again, Friday night, like we're writing out, okay, what's on our wish list? I think that's a really important piece. I mean, ideally people do this before they come over, but I've been here before, so it wasn't so much of like, oh, I need to see the Eiffel Tower, or, oh, I want to go to Notre Dame. Like it was more about, what do I want to experience? And my big thing this time was I wanted to go and see live jazz. So I did it 3 times. And the first time was for freaking 6 hours. So we showed up for a 9 o'clock concert, and then 11:30, a jam started, which is basically like these amazing musicians, and they're just kind of like playing together. And that basically lasted until about 3 a.m. So that was amazing at 38 Riv, and I do have a link to that also in my blog post. And so, once we kind of made our wish list, then what we did is we just built our days around it. So Saturday, we started with grabbing some food at Wild in the Moon, and then we walked down kind of through the Marais, and that's whenever we stumbled upon 38 Riv, which was a jazz club we'd read about, and we're like, oh my gosh, we got to do this. So we stopped for, really, it was more like dinner at that point. It's like 5, and I buy us tickets to see the show that night, and then we kind of finished eating, we wander back, we get ready, and then we head back out. And we did a lot of stretching, like legs up the wall, and oh my gosh, like we were pretty sore from just walking all day. Oh, and in between all of that was the haunted house. Okay, so then Saturday night into Sunday morning to 3 a.m., we're at the jazz club, which was just amazing. I'm like sipping water all night. She's like meeting everybody in the bar. I'm like just chilling by myself watching the show. And it was just, it was just really magical. I am a big jazz fan now, I have decided. And then Sunday, we go to a cafe, which is really lovely. There's a cafe, there's in a couple of my photos on Instagram, just like a couple of buildings down right here on the corner. So lovely. Just like traditional kind of French look and vibe, and just really lovely. And then from there, we headed up to Montmartre. So that's quite a walk up the hill. And then I think I read there's 170 stairs up to Sacré-Cœur. And I have to say, like, my hips and calves and bum have been sore. Like, I took a really hardcore ballet class for the past few days. And then we had a 3-hour, and it really turned out to be about 3.5-hour sketching class, which was, again, as I mentioned earlier, so fun. And we started at Sacré-Cœur, and then we just kind of went around. We went to La Maison Rose, which is this beautiful pink house, and I have a photo of that on Instagram. And I actually went to see it for the very first time whenever I was here in November. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this house existed? And that was our first sketch, which was really cool. He was like, I can see you're a perfectionist. I'm like, because everyone else had these sketches already done. And I'm like, okay, there's 4 windows. So I got to get the 4 windows in. But these have shutters. And I was like, oh, I just really have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm just trying to completely imitate it. So anyway, it was really fun. And he was so gentle and loving, which was really nice. And then kind of after that, we stopped and had more pizza. I pretty much consumed pizza without cheese every day, a lot of tea. And then we walked back to kind of our area so that she could get packed, which was maybe about probably about 45 minutes from Sacré-Cœur. And then we got her all set. We called and FaceTimed with Tim, and then we went to a cafe before she took off for a 10:30 train. So that was kind of the weekend in a nutshell. So Monday and Tuesday I was on my own. And Sunday night I set up a tour at the Opera House to see it because I just have seen beautiful photos and I've never been. I think I've been in the gift shop and that's it, ever. And so was blown away. That place is stunning. So it was really nice to get the tour, to go into the Opera House itself, and there were people setting up, sets and whatnot on the stage. And then after that, after the opera, I kind of did more wandering and found myself, gosh, at that point it's kind of mid-afternoon, right? And so I'm like, what next is on the list? And what I had written out was like, okay, maybe Rodin. And I ended up not getting back to see my friend Rodin. Opera House, done. Ballet and yoga. I never got to a class, but I brought my ballet slippers and I was hoping to go. It just never worked out time-wise. Then I headed over to Luxembourg Garden because there was this exhibit there that looked like fun. And see, there you can see it a little better. Just beautiful artists. And so I went to go see that, and I wandered through Luxembourg Garden, which is, of course, always a treat. And then, of course, I had on here Shakespeare and Company. So then I wandered down from the Luxembourg Garden area over to Shakespeare and Company. I mean, always have to go there. Love Shakespeare and Company. And then I ate next door. There's this cafe next door that's just really sweet. The guy is super funny. And when Americans walk by, he starts singing Star Spangled Banner. And he's just like adorable. So I went there and saw him again, even though he has no idea who I am. I think he's adorable. And then after that, I made my way kind of back to the area I'm staying in and picked up a couple of green juices at Wild and the Moon because a belly full of pizza, I was just like, I need some vegetables, I need something. So I stopped back at Wild and Moon, got 2 bottles of green juice, and then as I was kind of walking back, I remembered there was this little massage place, and I thought, I could use a foot rub, because again, my body was so sore. So I stopped and got a 45 euro rub, and it was just what the doctor ordered. Then I headed back here, and at that point, it was pretty late. Most of the shops were closed. They closed like around 7-ish, and so I just kind of settled in for the evening, which was really nice. It was my earliest night. And then Tuesday, woke up and then met up with a friend at the cafe where Amélie was filmed. She has a place in Montmartre, so we met up there and had like a 3-hour brunch, which was absolutely lovely. And then whenever we were done meeting, I was like, I don't really even have a plan. I was like, Rodin Museum, W.H. Smith, my English bookstore. I was like, what? So I looked it up, and Rodin was like 2.2 miles from where I was, and the other one was 1.7 miles. And I thought, well, you know what? Let me just go to W.H. Smith. I always love going there. And Tim was going to be starting a new job that day, and so I wanted to make sure at like 3:10 my time I could call him and wish him a wonderful kind of first day on the job. And so headed over to W.H. Smith, browse the book section. I love that bookstore. It's so wonderful, and it's Rue de Rivoli, which is like also where Angelina's is. So it's just a really nice part of Paris. And then from there, went over to the Tuileries, called him, wished him, as I'm walking through the Tuileries, wished him a wonderful first day, and then ended up kind of at the Louvre. And then from there, hopped on the metro, headed back to this area again, and hit a couple of shops. Merci is one store that I always love going to. I hit this kind of random discount shop that had the kind of satin pleated skirt that I ended up picking up. It's like a midi length. And then came back here, dropped everything, and then wanted to get back to Shakespeare and Company by about 6 o'clock because there was a 7 o'clock event with a comedian author named Sarah Pascal. I didn't know of her, but I thought she looked really interesting. And, you know, it's fun to go to events at Shakespeare and Company. And the title of the book is Sex, Power, Money. Anyway, it's really interesting. She had so much wonderful stuff to say about you know, all of her research and her experience, and I recommend it. I haven't read the book, but I really enjoyed her. And then after that, my plan was to go to this kind of swanky hotel that offers free jazz at night. And so as I was walking over, I was kind of hungry because I had just had some chia seed pudding for lunch/dinner at the Shakespeare and Company Cafe while I was waiting in line to see for the event, because you really needed to queue up early in order to make the event. So anyway, so I'm standing in line, eating my chia seed pudding, go to the event, and then I head over. It's like a 10-minute walk over to the Jazz Hotel. Well, next to it is a pizza place. I'm like, perfect. So I have some pizza, then I head to the jazz thing. And I'll put a link to this jazz place in the hotel, or in the in a blog post. But basically, it was just a beautiful, fancy, swanky hotel that just looked gorgeous, kind of old Parisian. And at the bar area, there's jazz every night, I think, except Sunday. And I loved it, but it was just a female singer and a pianist, which was lovely, but I kind of wanted the big band thing, right? So I stayed there. I had a cup of tea, of course, and then headed out. And then I Googled, because I was right by Notre Dame, it was like jazz place near Notre Dame. And so I found another place that was 10 minutes away, and another one in a cave that was like 38 Riv. So, medieval times kind of setting, beautiful. You go down like a couple levels into this basement cave. And so this one was also called Cave something. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes, and I posted on Instagram stories. But what was really cool about this one, huge band, right? From guitarist to pianist to bass player to saxophonist and drummer. So loved it. So I stayed there, oh my gosh, until, is it midnight or 1? Again, just paid the entry fee and just kind of sat there and enjoyed, and then wandered home. So that's been the experience in a nutshell. And again, just to kind of run through, okay, what are the steps that go into this? First of all, finding a flight through Google Flights, track it, and get a good deal. And then secondly, finding an Airbnb that speaks to you, that just feels like what it is you want. Number 3, plan your wish list. So again here, it says 2019. Paris wish list. And then, so I always had this with me. And then, I wrote down, okay, what are the things I want to do? And then I also did a little bit of writing. One morning I was doing a little bit of writing before I headed over to the tour at the opera. I also wrote my September goals here, did a little sketching, a little bit more writing. Yeah, oh yeah, and then here's a list of the final things I wanted to make sure I did while I was here. So it's just handy to have that. And of course, I always carried my pen case that had markers and whatnot so that I was sure to not miss anything. So you set up the foundations of your of your time anywhere, right? Like, okay, who are you going to meet up with and when? If you can kind of nail that down, because then you can build around that. Okay, when do you want to go on a tour or go on a sketchbook event? The sketching event that I mentioned. And, it's like, again, okay, so we just build around that. They're like the pillars of the trip. And then just making sure that you have everything pulled together. Also picking up treats for friends and whatnot. It's always fun. And so, yeah, and that's how I basically plan it. Another thing, too, is, since it was like late at night last night and I was going into a cave, a medieval cave I'd never been to before, I just kind of texted Tim the address. I was like, hey, just FYI, this is where I'm heading next. Okay, whenever I was done there, okay, I'm heading back. So that, if somebody doesn't hear from you, they know, like, okay, I know she was going to be there. Let's look into this, or let me just see if I can contact and see what's going on. So that's one of the ways too, like as a solo traveler, that I tend to operate, feel safe, no worries, and so that is Paris 2019 Solo Adventure in a nutshell. I hope this is helpful as you think about planning your own escapades to, even if it's just a weekend away in a neighboring town. So just thinking about what is it that will allow you to kind of set up the pillars of your event. And of course, always packing those creature comforts. Hello tea, hello pens, hello journal, and hello wish list. I think it's really helpful to make sure that you do what you want to do while you're there. Thank you for following along on Instagram, etc. It's been a treat, and I look forward to sharing more with you in future days with links and whatnot. Thanks. Have a great day.